Well, is it right to ask then, how did we get there?
How did we get to that position?
How did we get to that heresy? Why has that? Why are we soaked and swimming in that?
One of the places to look is the Greek civilization. What a wonderful and beautiful civilization it was, and but caught up in that were lots of conflicts and debates. But by the time the classical age of Greece had reached its fruition, a sort of general consensus came out, which was kind of ugly, I think, and this was called Neoplatonism. Right? And in the Neoplatonic world vision, you've kind of taken the worst parts of Aristotle and the worst parts of Plato, and you kind of crashed them together and formed a worldview. Right? And that worldview permeates down through the centuries. To us, yeah. And so let's pick up, I've sort of slammed them, so let's try and pick that up and say, well, what do you mean really? Well, there's an idea in Aristotle, for instance, there's an idea where you talk about the sublunary sphere, right? So we've got this notion of lunatics, and so lunar is kind of interesting. So the thing is that underneath the sphere where the moon rotates around the Earth, there is change and decay and something pretty horrible and pretty ugly, and we're in the middle of it. Right? That's Aristotelian position. And then beyond that are the heavens. Right? So people talk about the music of the spheres. So what they mean is, beyond that are the stars, and the stars are perfection. Right? So this notion of the heavens, the heavenly bodies, yeah, and the music of the spheres. Can you feel this beautiful idea? But the trouble is, we're not there, right? We're down in this sublunary sphere, in the midst of all this mess and muck and yuck, right?
And where's God?
Oh, just hang on a bit. Hang on a bit, Bruce. Hang on a bit. Yeah. So now I'm about to skip across to that other fellow that I slagged, and that was Plato. and there's Plato, and Plato's saying, well, what we experience isn't real. Right? So the reality that what we experience isn't real. Reality's somewhere else. Right? So he has this famous story in Timaeus, about the cave, right? And the story about the cave, many of you probably know. Here's this person bound in the cave in chains, and they look at the shadows that are cast on the back wall of the cave. And as they look at those shadows that are cast on the back wall, they try and grapple with that and grasp that and imagine what the real world is that lies forever out of their sight. I mean, it's a pretty sad story, isn't it? Because they're shackled and chained within this sensory world, which is not the real world. Right? So the real world belongs in the godly sphere. So it's out there with the stars, right, in the Aristotelian idea, and the real world is somewhere else in the Platonic worldview, but not with us. And so this is kind of a powerful set of ideas that's travelled down through the ages and come through to us. Now the interesting thing is that Christianity speaks into the Greek world. As we know, the scriptures in the New Testament are written in Greek, in common Greek. So and into a world that spoke Greek as lingua franca of the Roman world, and as the language of the Roman world. And so the church encounters this worldview, and as it does, it literally rips it apart. It literally rips it apart. So people could be heard to say, what does Jerusalem have to do with Athens? What does the Hebraic mind, what does the mind that comes from Jesus Christ, what does that have to do with the Greek mind? Right? And let me just say something really quickly, because I don't want a false impression here. Right? That's not to say that there aren't many wonderful things that come out of a Greek mind. Right? There are many wonderful things that come out of the Greek mind, but there are some rather nasty ones that come along with it. And so, what does Jerusalem have to do with Athens? A lot, because they're all part of God's world. And whose world is it? It's God's world. Right? So all these aspects of the world, as Jesus comes into the world and lives in the world, here is the eternal God, right? In time. Right? It's an amazing miracle, isn't it? Well, here's the great miracle of the Christian faith. God comes into time and space as a human being. He comes into time and space as a human being. And what the church was doing in Nicaea was the church was saying, you know, this bond between the Father and the Son, this love, this relationship, this is so strong that we have to hold our understanding of this bond against all other ideas that we might have in the church. Right? That all other ideas that we might try to put forward within the church, all of those must bow the knee, all of those must be subjugated to, all of those must lie below this understanding of the relationship that exists between the Father and the Son, between the fact that the very being of God, became a human being. The very being of God. So what picture do we have of Jesus Christ? Do we have a picture of a supreme human being who is a wonderful example to all of us, who we should emulate and be like, which was the social gospel I grew up with? Is that what we have? Do we have some notion of God who, as Stuart said, tangentially touched the world, just touched on the edge of it? No. We have a huge intersection between the world of time and space, our world as human beings. We have this enormous intersection that takes place in Jesus Christ between our world and the eternal world of God.
Whoa.
The eternal world of God.
An intersection between our world, the created world, the world that didn't exist, the world made of matter, and the eternal world of God in the person of Jesus Christ.
Indeed.
Whoa.
Honestly, that might be a good point at which to take a breather and to think on that, and we'll pick up the issues in the second session.